So I would say the most important lesson that I learned this semester in this class would definitely just be basically how to communicate when you're not face to face, because I've never had to experience communicating and interacting like this much to this extent when it hasn't been face to face. In past group projects, in my work life, I've always like had the people there, and it seems to me, at least, I always thought that I was super good at being a leader and super good at communicating. Um, but I've never tried this type, so this definitely like taught me a lot and allowed me to learn how to adapt, which is another way that I would apply this to the future. Future classes, future projects, future jobs. It's just how important it is to be able to adapt. So, like, you might think you're good at something, but there's always ways to improve. I I think one of the biggest things that I learned was I always thought I was super good at communicating and being super like clear and focused. But when it's like online, I struggled with that because I wasn't sure like how to write things that like made sense in my head, and I wasn't able to like just tell people, so I had to like learn how to like write it out to make sure it made sense, and then just have follow-up questions just to make sure everyone's on the same page, because I feel like that was super easy this semester. Some of the things that our group struggled with was we thought we were on the same page and we weren't, and so that's super important. And especially like in the future, I've been super interested in like working for companies where I can work remotely or just anything to deal with, because I would like to travel. So I think working remotely, I would be working with supervisors and coworkers who would be online. So I think this class actually helped a lot and helped me learn a lot about myself. And I think that I could do it now. Definitely still room for improvement, but I think I am more likely to be able to do it. Another thing that I think is super important is to learn how each individual member likes to receive their information and how they kind of like understand information best, because not everyone in the team of 10 people are all going to understand and like communicate the same way. So I think as the semester went on, we got better at like learning the different ways that people communicate, and being able to adapt so that the whole team can be on the same page and not leave anyone out. Some strengths from the two techs. I think decision making has always been a challenge for me. I've never been like on my own. I've never been really good at just delegating like what I want to do. But I've learned that decision making on it with a team, when you know like what everyone's best interests are, I found that I've gotten a little better at that. And then clear and focused communication versus failed communication is a big one. I've always thought that like I've had very good clear and focused, but as we learned throughout this class, what you think is clear might not be clear to someone else. So I don't think we ever had any issues with failed communication. I think everyone's like at least tried. So I think a strength that I have coming from here is making sure everyone's on the same page. And so I think clear and focused communication has become a strength of mine throughout this class. And then also just including people as a leader instead of just like delegating tasks, making sure like everyone understands and everyone has their own task. That's another thing I think we learned throughout the semester. At first, we kind of just had like small tasks and not everyone really got to contribute. And then we realized that like we need to contribute, or we need to include everyone. So we started making assignments due for each person, or like assigning a certain thing to someone just so they feel engaged and included. And then lastly, I think empathy is important. Just because you need to be able to understand your team and put yourself in their shoes. If they're going through something and can't get an assignment done, life happens. And so I think just being able to understand that is super important as well. And lastly, something that I hope to improve on, and what skills in the class that I'll use to do this, I think I can constantly improve on just working with a team. And I think the skills in a certain skill in the class would be the exchange and negotiation tactics that we just learned about. I think are super important, because it's kind of like negotiating is super important in a team so that everyone's happy with the outcome rather than just thinking, this is the way I want to do it, so this is the way we're going to do it. And I've definitely experienced other classmates who have been that way, more of the like argumentative tactic rather than negotiating. And so I think personally I would like to use the exchange or negotiating tactics just because I think they seem the most fair. So I think I will always want to improve on working with a team because I know for a fact that's what I'm going to be doing in my future career and just for the rest of my life. So I think that is the most important skill and aspect from this class.